Hello, I'm glad you're back. This is bracketing number one. It looks like we're going to have two different sessions to go through all the bracketing options. So at this point, we're going to go to bracketing. Again, this software is Friehauf's wrestling tournament scoring software, available at suplay.com. If you already have it, great. This should help you use it a little bit more thoroughly. Anyway, we're on to bracketing, so we want to load up our program. So we're going to go here to pick it up, and we enter, and here we are with our setup. So what I want to do is I want to open my previously saved tourney, and here we are. Everything's set up, so the best thing to do is go to bracketing. So in bracketing, you'll see the screen which has weight classes. If you click on the weight class, left click, it goes up, right click, it goes down. That's very helpful. We have a lot of ways to bracket this. One way is to just enter the teams into the names list and then send them over to the bracket, or you can type them into the bracket. Or what I want to show is how you use email files to actually bring those files right into the names list so that you can seed those later. So anyway, to use that, what you're going to do is you're going to go to name entry or change bracketing, and that's in this phase right here. So it's name entry, get files by team. We can actually name entry from placers files, which if you have a district tournament going to a regional tournament, you can actually read the placers lists from another wrestling tournament manager software list, and it will put those right into the names list as well. You can also bracket to seeds list. That would be after you've got everything put in the names list. And you can change the bracket names by team. So you can take a team that's already been seeded and make changes on their own names. That can also happen if they haven't been seeded in this list. So we'll go there. In this position, in this place, you'll see we have availability for 3 wrestlers for each team. We put an NS at the bottom of those things, bottom at the end of those names. If they're a non-scorer, you can actually get rid of that if all of the wrestlers can score in your tournament. I prefer to use uppercase when reading the files, so it makes everything uppercase. It's easier to read from your bracket when they see those on the wall. So first thing we want to do is we want to read names from files. But before we do that, we've got to look at what's going to happen when you have coaches send you files. So what I want to look at is what happens. Now you could get files that they attach, and those attachments are in Microsoft Word, or they might be in Excel, or they might be in some other document. So what I want to do is I want to find my Word document here, and I want to read an example into it that I got from a tournament. So we go here, and I just called it Newton was the school, and here's what I got. So they put the weights, they put the wrestler's name, they put the grade, and then they put their career, actually current record. And then they gave some specifics about extra things about wrestlers. Well, I don't like the grade at the end of the name. We put that at the front. So what I'd have to do is Control X, Control V, put that there, and then put a dash at the end of it. Now I do that for each one, or I could just go up here and type it in. Just put 10 dash and go on. And then erase that later. The other thing that I want to look at, and this deals with how the computer reads the information. As soon as it finds the weight class, it reads it skips the first 3 or 4, and then it starts reading for alphabetic characters or spaces until it finds something that's not a space or an alphabetic character, and then it stops, and it will put the abbreviation at the end of the name. Or it will read further and pick up the next 12 characters, like it has right here. So I've got these characters, and that will be attached to the name. With these 10s here, it will actually stop right there and put a 10, and it'll put the abbreviation and then a 10 and all this stuff at the end of it. Well, that's kind of a little bit messy. So I actually do the changes early because I'm going to have to do them anyway. Then down here on this regional placer, so I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to make him 10 dash, and I'm going to get rid of this. And the only thing that I have to deal with here is that I've got to have something non-alphabetic character. So if I get rid of the 10, and what I have is just regional placer, I've got a guy's name, Jose Mendez Regional Placer, long name. So To fix that, I just put an asterisk and RP for regional placer because I don't need the whole thing written out because I'm going to read that later, and get rid of that. Here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to change this to Carlos 12 dash, and then I'm going to get rid of that 12 and put an R4 and get rid of all this other information. Eventually, it's not going to take too long, but I'm going to have that whole thing done. And what I would rather do is not keep this in terms of a Word document. I usually just copy this when I get it done, and then Control C, and I open up Notepad, and then I paste it in there. Notepad reads files a lot better because there's no extra characters for all the paragraphs and everything else. It just returns, and it's easy for the program to read it. It will read Word files. It will read Excel files if Excel doesn't have weight classes in different rows and columns. So it's better even with Excel to just copy it and paste it in the Notepad, and actually I'll make my changes in here as well. Eventually that's going to be completely done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open what I did when I got it finished. I'm not going to save that one. And it was under Newton, and this is what it eventually looked like. All cleaned up and ready to go. So that's done. You need to do that on your other files as they come in, and hopefully some of the coaches have it figured out, and they might have it printed out ready for you and ready to go, and you don't have to do many changes on it. If they don't put the year in there, it makes the job way easier. You don't have to put this in there, and they might put that any place on their Word or spreadsheet document. So anyway, that's what it's going to look like. So I'm going to get rid of all this, and we're going to come back here, and we're going to read our Newton team. So I go here to Newton, and read names from files. So I go here, I already stored all this stuff in the same wrestling samples folder or whatever the name of your tournament folder is. And then I go down here and find Newton. I don't want the Word document. I want this one. So I double click on that. It brings all those names in exactly how I set them up. I set it up so it reads the extra information after the name. If I don't do that, I don't get any extra information. And I'll just have everything without that. So at this point, I'm ready to go. I just send it to the names list. I'm going to go back and pick up Adams and read the names files. I go find Adams. These files, by the way, were created by all of the names lists from that previous team, and they are going to keep getting added to as I go. So I'm going to click on Adams, pick it up, and here's Adams, and they had some extra non-scorers. If I had a coach add a little note to the bottom of their email, I forgot to change so-and-so, his record was such and such, I can actually type that in here. So maybe he said this guy's record is 12-3 or 12-2. So I just type it in, hit enter, and then I'm ready to send this to the names list. And here you'll notice it added that there. So at this point, I'm going to pause you, and I'm going to finish up all the names lists, and we'll move back to the regular bracketing in just a moment. Alrighty, we've got all the names put in the files, and we're ready to go back to the bracketing. At this point, I'm ready to bracket. I can look at these things and try to see what the information is, but I've got a better thing down here. It says sort names list by extra info. So I go ahead and sort it. This will look alphabetically at the end and find out what the order is alphabetically, and then it'll go and look at the records after that and try to take the most wins from the ones given. So you'll notice here's 7 and 11 and a 7 and 2. It doesn't make any differentiation between the losses and the wins. So you have a way to look and see how these gentlemen should be seated. I'm going to take a break, and we'll go to the next bracketing number 2, and you'll have to find that file to listen to it to see how it finishes.